Oh, I wish you'd stay out of my way, because I want to watch it.
$1,000 a year will pay a penny more in federal taxes. That's why last year I secured more funding to go more IRS funding to go after wealthy tax cheats. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, and it is nonpartisan, says that this bill will bring in $150 billion, and other outside experts expect that it would save as much as $400 billion.
Bill, stop stalking me.
Fair share. Republicans may not like it, but I'm going to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share. I'm also proposed closing over a dozen special interest tax loopholes for big oil, crypto traders, hedge fund billionaires, saving taxpayers billions of dollars. Republicans defended every single one of these special interest loopholes. Every single one. But I'm going to be coming back. And with your help, I'm going to win. Right now, catch this. Right now, the average billionaire in America pays just 8% in federal taxes.
You're pointing at my dad.
Teachers and firefighters pay more than that. That's why I proposed a minimum tax for billionaires. Republicans are against it, but I'm going to keep fighting for it. No billionaire should pay less in federal taxes than a teacher or a firefighter. Look, let me close with this. I know bipartisanship is hard, and unity is hard, but we can never stop trying. Because in moments like this one,
well, I'm not bi,
where the American
Bill.
The world economy is at risk of collapsing, there's no other way. No matter how tough our politics gets, we need to see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans.
You're illegally spying in my house.
And respect.
Please.
To join forces as Americans to stop shouting, lower the temperature, and work together to pursue progress, secure prosperity.
Wouldn't you be mad
The promise of America forever.
if you had no privacy at all in your own house?
Apparently I'm involved, so
unity.
but it ain't
There is
bothering
no
me.
peace, only bitterness and fury. And we can never become that country. I can honestly say to you tonight that I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there's nothing we can't do when we do it together.
Yeah, well,
So thank you all for listening, taking the time tonight to listen to me. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
And we've just been listening to President Biden in his first Oval Office address saying that he's going to sign tomorrow that debt limit bill, which will, of course, avert the first ever default on the nation's debt. I want to go right to our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander. Peter, he walked through several parts of the bill. He did say this: no one got everything they wanted, but the American people got what they needed. Give us the top lines where Americans will be feeling this bill in the coming days and weeks.
Tom, I got to tell you, this felt a lot like a campaign speech. This is the message we're going to hear repeatedly from President Biden heading into 2024. The president focusing on some of those key buzzwords like bipartisanship and compromise. The point you just made about how nobody got everything they wanted, but Americans got exactly what they needed here. The president repeatedly touted his accomplishments over the course of the last couple of years and how many of them happened with Republicans on board, including the infrastructure law and also the CHIPS Act that helps produce more semiconductors in this country. But the bottom line is, it is striking to hear from the president speaking for the first time behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office on this issue. But the White House, and conversations I've had with aides here, indicate they recognize the urgency of this moment and how important it was to avoid what have been the first.
I don't have AIDS.
For the United States. The president also touting economic news with another 330,000+ jobs tonight. The president trying to make sure he can speak to the political middle in this country, not the extremes on either side, but the Americans, including those independents who could.
Are you pointing to my neighbors on the left?
Peter, we thank you for that. Peter did mention the politics of all of this. I want to bring in our senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson. President Biden campaigned on this, and he was attacked by progressives. He'd said he worked with Republicans, but compromised.
I'm going to put Hallie Jackson in prison.
And at the top of his remarks, he even commended Speaker McCarthy.
He nodded to the House Speaker, as he has done a couple of times in this process so far, saying that he...
I'm going to put you in prison.
I'd like to hear
What's
it.
so interesting is the policy context to this, which is so critical. It would have been a global economic catastrophe if the U.S. had defaulted on its debt. But there is obviously a political stage setting for the 2024 campaign. And I will tell you that in my conversations with those close to the White House, they point to this moment as perhaps evidence that the president can point to down the road that he can be a force for stability and for bipartisanship, getting this deal done. You mentioned that hat tip to Kevin McCarthy. Keep in mind, Kevin McCarthy can come out of this with something to point to.
Why don't you look at me?
Corralled his Republican conference here to get this across the finish line. It was only a few months ago that we were talking about whether Kevin McCarthy could even become the House Speaker at all with those 15 votes. And now here he is. It is a feather in his cap as well. You make the point, Tom, that it's not often that we can talk about compromise in Washington. It's also not often that we can talk about something being kind of a win-win for both sides, and by the way, for the rest of the country, too.
I was just going to tell you this. Both sides are saying they got a little from
Yeah.
each of them, both touting this as a victory. And it's different because we haven't seen that in a while.
And it's strategically important because both sides also have bases that are not necessarily thrilled with what
I am going to take you off of the
The
air.
Republican side is going to have to deal with these conservative hardliners who are not thrilled with how this went down. It's not all, singing kumbaya down the road, Tom, but it is certainly a moment where we've avoided some economic issue, and the president can move forward here.
All of this, as we, of course, look ahead towards 2024,
Right.
President Biden, of course, going to be campaigning at some point very, very soon. And the Republicans at it as well, out on the campaign trail. Hallie Jackson, Peter Alexander, we thank you so much for joining us. That concludes this NBC News special report. We'll have much more coverage on our streaming network, NBC News Now, and for some of you, coming up on Nightly News Tonight. I'm Tom Yamas in New York. We thank you so much for watching this special.
And welcome to Top Story. I'm Aaron Gilchrist in for Tom Yamas tonight. Extreme weather taking hold in several parts of the country. Late today, a strong tornado touching down in Fort Stockton, Texas, whipping up dust as it carved a destructive path. In the Midwest and in the Northeast, it is the heat bringing danger. Temperatures soaring to unseasonable highs. Schools in Philadelphia forced to let out early to spare students from the 95-degree heat in classrooms without air conditioning. In neighboring New Jersey, the smoke from raging wildfires...
I'm sick of the fire departments harassing me too, just because I smoke
The
cigarettes.
coast of Florida, Arlene, strengthening into a tropical storm on just the second day of hurricane season. NBC's Sam Brock leads us off tonight.
Holy crap! Tonight, severe weather once again tearing through the country's midsection. A reported 5 tornadoes, at least one confirmed touching down, seen here east of Fort Stockton, Texas.
This is the time to be taking shelter, getting away from your windows.
The twisters coming on the heels of brutal flooding.
Just stay there for now.
That forced people out of their cars, prompted Governor Greg Abbott today to deploy emergency resources to the area. This, as day 2 of hurricane season has already brought the nation its first named storm, Tropical Storm Arlene, slowly moving through the Gulf as problematic weather stretches out across the country. In Philadelphia, temperatures creeping into the mid-90s and forcing schools to close early, with nearly 100 buildings in the district lacking full air conditioning.
The most important thing is making sure that our students are not exposed to heat-related illnesses.
In Miami Beach, preparation for heavy rain and possible flooding. These drain clearing efforts underway for days as the city's been beefing up flood prevention for years.
We've elevated about 11 miles of roads. We've added multiple pump systems, and we have enforced our dune system.
Even when it's not a downpour, parts of downtown Miami can look like this. Street swamps and cars trudging through pools of water. How much rain would it take to create that scene?
Rain for like half an hour, maybe, not much.
Sam Brock joining us now from Miami Beach. Sam, given how quickly the city has flooded in the not-so-distant past, do folks who live there feel like they're prepared for the possibility of several inches of rain?
Sure. So we've seen, Aaron, the kind of damage that just 2 inches of rain can do in places like downtown Miami. But no, they would be worried about a couple feet of rain, like what we saw in Fort Lauderdale about 2 months ago. The reality is a lot of these cities, like Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale, have been transitioning, Aaron, going from a gravity-based drainage system to a pump system, which is more efficient. They're still transitioning right now. In Miami Beach, where they have literally lifted up parts of the street so that water doesn't pool there anymore. They've done 11 miles. We heard about that, with 90 more to go. But folks here right now cautiously optimistic that Arlene is not going to be too treacherous in the days ahead. Aaron, back to you.
Sam Brock in Miami Beach. Sam, thank you. Now to a catastrophe in Connecticut. Part of an apartment building under construction suddenly caved in, trapping workers in wet cement. The race to pull them out comes as rescuers begin a long-awaited dig for survivors at a different collapse in Davenport, Iowa. Here's Maggie Vespa.
Tonight in Connecticut, chaos on a construction site when part of a New Haven apartment building where crews were pouring concrete suddenly caved in. Firefighters raced to make rescues before the concrete hardened.
Looks like his legs are buried. We're in the process of starting to dig him out.
Of the 36 workers on site, officials say 8 are hurt, 2 in critical condition.
Several persons in varying degrees of injury, from broken bones to 3 that were partially buried under the rubble.
The catastrophe out east comes as the dig gets underway in Davenport. 5 days after a large portion of this 6-story apartment building suddenly collapsed, specialized
P.S. Mint. Stop harassing me because I smoke cigarettes.
Trapped in the rubble. At times, signs of hope. But tonight, no one found.
I believe if we could have started this process earlier, we may have could save the life.
Could this search have been started sooner?
We were here Sunday.
Alyssa.
We did do searches.
And new tonight, a report
I'm glad I got Dave.
Saturday, the day before the collapse. On it, a man who says his employee was working near the building tries to warn authorities.
He was cleaning up in the back parking lot and said that the wall is bulging out. Someone is there working on it and told him to get out of the way because it's not looking good.
I'm not getting out.
Detail a history of complaints and necessary repairs, some of which were underway when this building collapsed, and the owner has not responded to questions about those concerns. Meanwhile, these crews are expected to search for days. Aaron?
Maggie Vespa for us tonight. Maggie, thank you. We head overseas now where a deadly train disaster is unfolding in eastern India. At least 100 people killed.
You mean train for Defense Intelligence 6?
NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley has more now on the rescue effort underway.
Tonight in India, fears passengers are still trapped after a massive and deadly train crash. People urgently searching through twisted metal for survivors who describe complete chaos when the crash happened. Everything went topsy-turvy. People started falling on each other, said this passenger. My mind stopped working. The whole coach was tilted. The death toll expected to rise. Hospitals tonight overwhelmed. Some passengers describing horrifying scenes.
Dave, stop stalking me.
Someone had lost their hands. Someone had lost their legs, said this passenger. Emergency workers now in a round-the-clock rescue operation.
We're naturally concerned about looking after the bodies and removing all the living to the hospitals.
It's unclear exactly what happened. The collision may have involved 2 or 3 trains. Railway accidents are tragically common in India, occurring several hundred times per year. Authorities have said more than 100 survivors may be trapped under the rubble. Rescue efforts are expected to continue throughout the night. Aaron?
Matt Bradley. Matt, thank you. And still ahead tonight, a shocking arrest in Texas. A school superintendent accused of trying to prey on a 15-year-old girl. The undercover sting operation that landed him in handcuffs. Plus, a driver being called a hero after her school bus went up in flames. The split-second decision that may have saved students' lives. And Shark Tank battle, why one of the show's celebrity investors is asking for a restraining order against a contestant he went into business with. Stay with us.
You gonna keep going?
Yeah, I'm good. Core Hydration Plus Immunity, with lemon extract and nutrients to help support your healthy immune system.
I'd like that. When moderate to severe ulcerative colitis keeps flaring, put it in check with Rinvoq, a once daily pill.
When UC got unpredictable, I got rapid symptom relief with Rinvoq and left bath emergency behind. Check.
When UC got in my way, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when my gas
There ain't anybody better staying in here.
Repair the colon lining. Check. Rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission, and a chance to visibly repair the colon lining. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC in check and keep it there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastro about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Research shows people remember heartwarming ads. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, here's a touching moment.
I want to give you something very special that I wore on my wedding day. Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. I love you, Mom. I love you, too.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
You've got too much on your plate to worry about what to put on it next. That's where we come in. We're Factor, your one-stop shop for fresh, fully prepared meals, packed with premium ingredients, and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes flat. Did we mention delivered right to your door?
TV 50 cops.
Looks like eating well just got a whole lot easier.
Visit factormeals.com and use code TV50 for 50% off.
It's the best time of the morning. Time for the pop thing.
Feeling the vibe today on the show.
Start humming back your tunes. How you doing, Leslie?
Back now with a brawl in the Shark Tank. Investor Damon John filing a restraining order against a former NFL player, Al Bubba Baker.
You're pointing at me. I ain't never went in business with anybody.
Almost a decade ago. Now, this move comes after Baker and his family called the experience with the investor a, quote, nightmare. NBC's Jake Ward has more.
Kevin, I love the fact that you have made us an offer. And I think I'm going to take Damon.
Tonight, blood spilled in the Shark Tank. Celebrity investor Damon John seeking a restraining order against
You mean
NFL player Al
Daryl Jeffrey?
Family.
Bless me with the Bubba Baby back.
The Bakers winning an investment from John on Shark Tank back in 2013 with their pitch of pre-cooked baby back ribs.
Reese. You talking about Kelly Reese?
Yes. In 2017, the show updated its audience. Barbecue saying sales went from $154,000 to $16 million in the 3 years after the deal. But both sides say the relationship has grown icy over the years. Then, an explosive LA Times article published in which the Bakers claimed John is cutting them out of profits and trying to seize control of the business.
That idea is so brilliant, I'll do the exact same deal, but I'll only take 30%.
The family also alleging in the LA Times that after the on-air offer of $300,000 for 30% of the company, John revised the terms of the deal to $100,000 for a 35%.
You're going to pay me a lot more than that.
Shop a pitch. They don't say what's wrong with anything, of course, and we then evaluate it at the end and come up with an accurate agreement.
In response, this restraining order coming alongside a lawsuit from John, asking that the Bakers be prohibited from directly or indirectly making further disparaging or defamatory remarks against him. John saying in an exhibit in the lawsuit that the family has made money from the investment while he is still, quote, in the red. A spokesperson for John telling NBC News, this temporary restraining order is due to the Bakers' blatant actions to undermine a business.
Just please, I'd like to see the fucking
they agreed
TV.
to 4 years ago. The family not backing down, publishing this video on YouTube after the lawsuit was filed.
Well, unfortunately, our experience has turned out to be a nightmare since partnering with Damon John.
And posting several times on social media. Damon John firing back to his massive following on TikTok.
I'm making this video to address this LA Times article that Al Bubba Baker and Brittany Baker intentionally broke their confidentiality and put out and shopped to this reporter,
calling the article a false narrative. Al Baker and his family.
It ain't very false if I have proof of it on this recording, is it?
To double down on his claims.
Trying to shut me and my family up, but it's not going to work.
The temperature rising in this red-hot business battle, and now it seems the courts will decide which shark will get the bigger bite. Jake Ward, NBC News.
And we turn now to a sexting sting operation in Texas that led to 7 arrests, including a school superintendent. Investigators say Michael Stevens sent lewd photos and planned to meet up with a girl he believed was 15 years old. NBC's Priscilla Thompson joins us now from Houston. Priscilla, earlier today, Stevens was in court. What can you tell us about the investigation here and what he's being charged with?
Yeah, Aaron, 47-year-old Michael Stevens remains in the jail behind me on a $100,000 bond. He's being charged with attempting to solicit a minor for sex. And this is an investigation
That's bullshit.
that lasted 2 months, where he was texting with an undercover agent who he believed was a 15-year-old girl. And what we heard in that hearing was really
bullshit.
graphic details.
How do you know it's
messages of him
bullshit?
describing sexual acts that he wanted to perform and wanted this person who he believed was a teenage girl to perform. Investigators say that he had also been sending nude photos to this undercover agent, some of those photos taken in his superintendent's office, and that he had also requested those photos in return. And investigators feeling very strongly that there is no question that Stevens knew he was messaging with an underage girl. In fact, there is a text message where he says, are you okay with my age? I feel like I might be too old for you, but still he continued the conversation, continued to make those advances, and investigators say that he was even planning a trip to Houston to meet this young girl and engage in what they described as, quote, sexual.
I want a wife, not a girl. The only girls I'm worried about are my children.
In a building not far from there as the superintendent, and investigators feeling very strongly about the case that they have laid out against him as they prepare to see what happens next here. Aaron?
So, Priscilla, you mentioned he was arrested in front of a high school. As the superintendent in this district, he potentially would have had access to schools every day, potentially access to students every day. Are investigators concerned about more potential victims here?
Yeah, Aaron, not only that, but prior to becoming the superintendent, he served as a teacher, as a coach, as a principal, as an assistant principal in school districts across North Texas. And so investigators are very concerned that there may be other victims given the access that he had to underage children. I spoke with the constable about this just a short while ago, and I want to play a little bit of that conversation.
I want to make sure that there are no other victims that are out there. The important thing of plastering his face and who he is, he was an assistant principal, a principal, and a superintendent.
Let's blast your face too.
All facets of the educational system, and that you come in.
That says Tony, right?
Investigators are urging anyone who may be a victim to come forward and report that now that this evidence is out there. Aaron?
Priscilla Thompson in Houston, thank you. When we come back, insurance pause, the latest company to announce it will no longer insure new homes in California as costs from wildfires continue to skyrocket. And a warning from Ford tonight, it's telling some drivers to park their SUVs outside and not in their garages. We'll explain.
They're catching on fire.
Avoiding triggers but still get migraine attacks? Qulipta can help prevent migraine attacks. Qulipta gets right to work. Keeps attacks away over time. Qulipta is a preventive treatment for episodic migraine. Most common side effects are nausea, constipation, and tiredness. Ask your doctor about Qulipta.
Denise.